Smithing people that they've done their job and they're ready to restart. Ms. Furtakis?
Yes, thank you. I had to shift screens so that we could get this back to you. So if everyone has everyone gathered? I'm unable to see.
We're all back. Yep.
Okay, thank you for your grace and patience as we tried to do some melding of what you had talked about and including the Guilford County, Guilford Schools piece. So if Ms. Villavicencio is ready to pull that up, you can, again, what we did was try to meld what we were hearing being said in terms of words, phrases, and concepts, and trying to blend them together. So anything that's in blue on the screen was an insert from the Guilford definition, and then into the rest of what was there. And so this is now up here for you to take a look at. And again, there is no, you can maneuver and change any of this. It was just trying to get it put into a space that was combining what we hoped we've been hearing you indicate you would like to see included.
One initial comment that this doesn't get to the meat of it, but can we change Palm Beach County Schools to the School District of Palm Beach County or something? Because although Palm Beach County Schools is singular in this case, it sounds like it doesn't go what the verb is, and some kids out there are going to say the school board doesn't know how to type.
Please phrase it however you would like to. I'll give you a moment or two if you need to just sort of absorb this and think about it, and then I'll rely on Mr. Barbieri to call on individuals.
Okay, I saw Dr. Robinson and Ms. McQuinn so far. Go ahead.
So, where did it go? We do this by sharing power with students, families, employees, and communities is what I would like. And then I still want dismantling racism and other systems of oppression. So we could do this, we do this by sharing power with students, families, employees, and communities while dismantling racism and other systems of oppression and inequity. We acknowledge and work to we acknowledge and dismantle systems, processes, mindsets, and that perpetuate race, poverty, blah, blah, blah. So that's using dismantle twice, so I would whip out my thesaurus and come up with another word, but that's my suggestion at this point.
Ms. McQuinn, then Mrs. Whitfield.
Okay, 2 words. It's committed to creating equity. I can do this. Oh, the adults. I think Ms. Andrews spoke to that. We're talking about our adult employees. I don't know how we do that because, you know, we say, well, we can't do it because our parents don't do their job. I think we're counting on the adults who are employed by this school district, and I don't know how we do that. The other, so think about that. And the other is, I can do this. I guess I'm going to just belabor this supporting in the 3rd line, supporting students, and come back to the enabling piece again. And Dr. Fenoy's good putting in the intentional. But I like this. But I looked, I'm looking it up again. So the kids' definition of enable. So we intentionally, but it's to give strength, power, or the ability to. So we're supporting, at least put in, I don't know, intentional enabling. I don't know how we do it. But remember, supporting is just such a milquetoast word.
Ms. McQuinn, could you go back to reading the definition? A lot of times in statements like this, you want words that people can understand. So it's interesting how times we use a word and the definition breaks it down to make it simple. Maybe we use the words in the definition here so that people don't have to go look it up, if that makes sense.
So the kid's definition of enable, according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, is to give strength, power, or the ability to. So, so remember, this is enable in a very proactive, positive way, and I think that it's making something possible. So, enabling is not strong enough. I agree, but we can say enabling how, or whatever, providing. Well, Dr. Robinson said it, by giving them the power. Something, just not support. And then, thank you.
Mrs. Whitfield?
I'd like, if I may, before we lose it, I wanted to respond where it's the comment about where adults take ownership. And this is not just, what I might suggest you consider is adults within your system, because it isn't just the people who are employed by the school district. This is also including the school board and all the adults that are a part of your system.
Mrs. Whitfield and Dr. Robinson?
Thanks. I think we should go back to having that dismantling racism and other systems of oppression and inequality. We just have dismantling systems, processes, and mindsets, but I do think that dismantling racism is stronger, and we could add that in there. And again, I really do want to add in gender identity and sexual orientation in the perpetuate race, poverty, disability, English language status as predictors of achievement. Somewhere in there, we got to put it in there because it's very, very important. And then again, I'm also saying this one more time, the end of Marysville, I mean, I love the way that they embrace, celebrate, and honor diversity of our students, staff, parents, community members, and helping each student achieve personal and academic success. I think we should end on a positive note, number one. And number two, I want to say that differences in people is a good thing. I don't like that it's a bad thing. It's a good thing. I want to know where you came from, what you learned, how you got there. That's important. And I think I want to honor that. And I think writing it in there is really important.
If I can give some context on the Marysville one, since you've raised it several times, you probably actually have heard of this school district. About 5 years ago, they made the national news because of the school shooting that happened at their middle school involving Native American students and Native American leaders in the children who were part of families who were leaders in this community. This school district has a significant percentage of Native Americans on as a part of their school population, and is part of this school district is on the reservation. So it has it created there was a lot of discrimination and racism that came out when this happened in the reactions that people had to this. I mean, it was a horrifying situation, and this was the result of the community coming together and basically saying we must recognize that we have differences. These differences should be honored, and it's incorporating some Native American approach to how we do healing. And so their statement is incorporating some of that. So it is positive, and just since you have brought it up a couple of times in this conversation, it would be helpful to have some of the context around where that came from.
Dr. Robinson?
Thank you. So I have a couple things. So the first thing is on the second line where it says for student learning outcomes. I think I wanted to say student learning and outcomes. So I mean, that's just a thought that we can debate. So then Ms. McQuinn, can you tell us it was 3 components of the definition of enable. Because I think to Dr. Fenoy's point, maybe we use those components in here instead of the word enable, because it included power.
Right, this was the kids' definition, which was, okay, people, I'm not going to lose it. You know, oh, here we go. To give strength, power, or the ability to do something.
Okay, so I'm really clear. I don't want to say give power. I want to say share power, because I think a lot, like some of the conflict between students and teachers that end in referrals to the classroom and stuff is a power struggle, and it's a lot of power struggles that happen. But so I want to say share power because we each have a role, and maybe not give strength, but I don't know. Something with strength, develop strength or something. I don't really know. I'm not a good wordsmither, but let's see. And then, okay, to ensure the students have what they need to be successful in school and life, we do this by, and then that's where that goes, the sharing power, whatever, and community. And to me, that's where, right after that, before this acknowledging and dismantling systems and so forth, is where we say by dismantling racism and other systems of oppression and inequity. And then the next sentence is about acknowledging and deconstructing the systems, processes, and mindsets that perpetuate race, poverty, disability, gender identity, is that the, and English language status as predictors of achievement. So that's my best wordsmithing at the moment.
Mrs. Andrews?
I don't want to leave out the piece at the second paragraph to put up in the first paragraph with the aligning or redistribution of resources to provide access. That has to get up in there somewhere. And so, let's see.
This is actually, you can do this as two paragraphs, two paragraphs, because you've got multiple thoughts. One of them is you're talking about your what that you're identifying, and then when you start with the word achieving, that is a how. So you can be, you're doing both. Both of these, all of these do not have to fit into one paragraph. You can do this as two.
So I would definitely want to put that piece in there with the aligning and redistributions of resources to provide access and opportunity.
Are you, do you have a preference for the word? When we were doing that, we were looking at or aligning or redistribution. Do you have a preference for one of those words?
Yeah, I like aligning. I like aligning. Mm-hmm. Both of them are good.
So can I say something? So just to talk about that part. So, okay, so first off, thank you, because I was just focused on the first paragraph. But so when I talk about the push coming to shove to bless them according to their needs and that we can all be successful, but in order to do that, we really have to redistribute. I can't say the word right now. That word. Mm-hmm. The resources, because that's how my whole thing about the people who are disproportionately impacted should be disproportionately resourced. Mm-hmm. So redistributing, there we go, would align with that. In my mind, more than aligning. Okay, and then we have, so I prefer historically marginalized as opposed to communities of color. And yeah, and that opportunity word, we need to come up with something better.
I don't mean to interrupt. I'm trying to get with Mark to bring this up on the big screen instead of the PowerPoint slide, so.
But some of us can see it.
Yes.
Okay.
We're gonna talk about it.
It's only the eyes that went.
While they're working on that, is there a preference? We put in parentheses the word employees instead of staff. Is there a preference for one of those words? And then that goes back to this issue of how we're qualifying the word adults.
Mrs. Whitfield?
I would,
It's in our system.
I would prefer staff. If you're asking on that question, I think employees it's not, it just conveys that whole financial relationship. I don't know. I don't like it as much. But I wanted to go back to, are we putting, I don't see the stuff that I said in there. So are we adding that to the bottom that I just can't see it? Or how do I get to what I wanted to say in there? You tell me how that works. Like gender identity is one thing, sexual orientation is another thing that needs to go in there as a separate thing. And then at the bottom, I was talking about that whole positive spin. Also, I don't know why we haven't, why we got rid of the part of the, from Franklin County that I really liked, and I know Dr. Robinson really liked, the piece on dismantling racism. I think that should be in there. So I don't know how to get those up there, but you feel free to add them. If people don't like what I'm saying, tell me that. But otherwise, I'd like to see it in there.
Okay, so let's take those one at a time. Underneath the second paragraph of the how, there was the highlighted piece from Marysville that you're talking about. You can conclude your statement with that if you would like to. That can easily be just inserted in there for the moment so that you can have the visual of it. The second one that you talked about is looking at this list that's up in the first paragraph and wanting to ensure that, I think, remind me again, which things you wanted to make sure that were included that are not?
Dismantling racism?
No, this was the list of
sexual orientation. Sexual orientation.
Okay, so that's the one that was not captured.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I'm just needing to make sure, Ms. Via, because this is very small on my screen, and trying to make sure that that I'm seeing that it's also being captured there. And then the third one was the lines through it, the last part of the first paragraph, dismantling racism and other systems of oppression and inequity. That can be reinserted up. Would you be wanting to put that at the very top or inserting it in another spot in that first paragraph?
I thought it fit at the top. I'm trying to find where it fit before. I don't see it as well as I did before.
We had it up at the top where it was following the school district of Palm Beach County is committed to dismantling racism and other systems of oppression and inequity. What we were looking at was the Guilford one and basically just inserted that similar phrase, but we can reinsert this up there and you can take a look at how those two meld, where you would be deleting words and inserting.
I think you could just do a second sentence. So the school district of Palm Beach County is committed to dismantling racism and other systems of oppression. We will create equitable and inclusive schools where adults take ownership for student learning and outcomes.
Vicencio, did you get that?
Thank you.
Yes, please bear with me. If there's something I do not capture, please tell me. Thank you.
Okay, let's take a moment to see how this is landing on you with additional thoughts, comments.
Furtakis, my question is, you started off by saying the first paragraph is the what and the second one is the how, but it seems like we got a whole bunch of hows in the first paragraph. It's starting with, we do this by, I mean, if we're going to keep them separate,
Yeah.
then, and it looks like we have
Yeah.
some overlap in the two paragraphs. We're using, the dismantling, in two different places. It's just,
Yes,
I
you
think- I
are
think-
correct.
I think when we started talking about this, a lot of us didn't realize we had two paragraphs. We were looking at one, trying to fit words from the second paragraph into the first one. But so now we've got too much, I think, in one or the other.
And this is why we wanted you to see it all as a visual so that you can start doing that honing in and paring down where things should be.
Mrs. McQuinn?
So if we stick strictly to the what, then we will create equitable and inclusive schools. Well, then the adults taking ownership for student learning, that's a how.
Yeah.
I mean, really,
Yes.
our what should just be straightforward. And then how are we going to do that? Well, our adults, and I just give up on the employee staff thing. Do what feels good to everyone.
Would one of you be willing to read this out loud? Because believe it or not, it does make a difference when you're actually hearing it and seeing how it sounds. I know it's a little challenging with there, but if someone would be willing to give their best effort, that would be helpful.
I'll try. Since I'm straight in front of it and my eyes can see it now that he made it bigger. The School District of Palm Beach County is committed to dismantling racism and other systems of oppression and inequity. We will create equitable and inclusive schools where adults take ownership for student learning and outcomes and ensure students have what they need to be successful in school and life. We do this by supporting students, families, staff, and communities, and acknowledging and dismantling systems, processes, and mindsets that perpetuate race, poverty, disability, English language status, gender identity, and sexual orientation as predictors of achievement. Achieving racial equity requires proactive and continuous investment in communities of color or historically marginalized groups who have endured centuries of systemic oppression. Palm Beach County Schools is committed to dismantling structures rooted in white advantage, to hearing and elevating underrepresented voices by sharing power, recognizing and eliminating bias, and aligning or redistributing resources to provide access and opportunity to historically marginalized groups. And we will embrace, celebrate, and honor the diversity of our students, staff, parents, and community members in helping each student achieve personal and academic success.
I actually really like it. I feel like it's getting there.
Yes, it is. It makes a difference when you read it. Thank you, Mr. Barbieri.
Mm-hmm. I have something.
Dr. Robinson?
So while we're adding to the list, mindsets that perpetuate race, ethnicity, we missed that. And then when it says English language status, I think that should be standard American English status, because some people will say that students whose home language is African American English do not have a asterisk next to their English language status, but we do, right? Which is part of our reading difficulty because the system doesn't acknowledge our language. So I would request that we consider putting standard American in front of English language status.
Mrs. McQuinn, you want to comment on that?
It's my understanding when we see English language status that we're referring to what we often say ELL, English as a second language, right?
And so the point that I keep making is that children whose home language is African American English, which is a language, actually should qualify for English language learner status and get the supports that would accompany that. But there's no meta decree or anything else that says that should be done. I'm hoping that we will get there as an educational institution, that we will embrace that, right? But that's why I include that there. I mean, if you have some other words that would acknowledge that, then, I mean, have English language status and standard English. That's a bit much, but I think if you say standard American English language status, that does not include children who are qualifying for ELL? To me it does, but I mean, in what way? No, I'm saying children who speak Haitian Creole, right? They're going to fit in this category whether I say standard American English language status or English language status. They're still going to fit. The people who don't fit in this that I'm conscious of are students whose home language is African American English. There might be some others too that I'm not processing, but that's what I'm saying. If it's standard American English language status, I think that includes ELL plus.
Ms. McQuinn?
Can we just say language status?
Okay.
Thank
I think
you.
I can, yeah.
And let's decide on the historically marginalized groups. We're going to take out communities of color and just put that parenthesize, or that phrase in there instead.
Thank you. Yep.
Okay.
Okay,
Is language status a thing? Officially?
Yes,
It's like
language status is a thing,
It's a
and that
term.
actually addresses a whole range of things. If you take English out of it, but you just talk about language status, we have specific federal funding that is for students who are English language learners. We also are careful to not talk about foreign languages; they are world languages. We're also careful, in our district, we never talked about English as a second language because English was often the third or fourth language that our students were learning when they came to us as immigrants and refugees. So you have covered the broad range of what's being discussed here when you say language status.
At the end of the third line on the first paragraph, we all agree to add the word "and," so we can take the question mark away. Yes?
No, we don't. I don't.
Agree.
I don't, Mr. Barbieri. We will create equitable and inclusive schools. Because the others are how. Wait a minute. We will we will create equitable and inclusive schools and ensure students have what they need to be successful in school and life. That other stuff that's in there is a how again, between. Right?
So we have to move
All
it
right,
to
let
the
me
bottom.
say it again. We will create equitable and inclusive schools and ensure students have what they need to be successful in school and life.
And then you're going to take the how part and move it down. Move it
Yeah,
down
put
to
that
the
how
bottom.
down.
Okay, I like that.
So you want another paragraph with the "we do this by," since we're now taking the what and a how, putting it in the same paragraph. We do this by supporting. That's a how, isn't it?
That's a how, yes.
So maybe that's a second paragraph. So we have 3 paragraphs here.
Okay. The how paragraph is just really long and the what paragraph is really short? Okay.
The what can be short. That's actually a good point because the what, I mean, you're being very direct about what the problem is. It's racism and the need to dismantle it and other systems of oppression and inequity. That is the root of the inequities that are happening in the system. And by identifying the root, you then are able to spend more time talking about the how.
So Ms. Furtakis, can you see what we have on the screen?
It's very small for me, and I keep refreshing on my phone so that I can try and keep this. This is, one of the disadvantages of here. It would be great if someone would like to read what you have at this point.
Oh,
Well, before we do that, can someone tell me where adults take ownership for student learning
Yeah, I was going
should
to ask
go
the same
now?
question. Where are we putting that?
That's a how. How are we doing that? Adults are taking responsibility.
I do think that the achieving racial equity should be the beginning part of the how, because I like that. And then the rest of it should just bump under.
Can you say something? Can I say something right here?
Let's move that.
Move it.
Let's change that order and see what that looks like.
That's what I was going to say, change the order. Mhm.
We taking away the word privilege and putting in the word advantage. So scratch the word. We using aligning or redistributing resources.
There seems to be some discussion about around, if I'm remembering correctly, that both words might be considered for inclusion. We had looked at it as an either or, but it can be an and.
What about allocating?
Who said what? I can't.
Allocating?
So, Ms. Vertakis, they're suggesting allocating or aligning or redistributing. Which of those words do you think?
So the issue is that what it is the modifier to the allocating, aligning, or redistributing, because you're recognizing that there is already disproportionality in how things are being distributed, that there is bias included in it, that it is preferencing some groups over the others. So you could use any of those words as long as you're saying that it's in response to this problem that is existing.
Mrs. Whitfield?
Sorry, I have so many thoughts. I was just looking at like what are the disenfranchised groups in America to make sure we're not missing anybody, and I was thinking, what do you guys think about? I know this would be a big problem, but documented status. So like whether or not they're documented in this country, because that's a big group of people who, you know, especially in our schools, are very nervous and afraid. What do you think? Just putting that out there.
That would be good to consider including, because according to federal law, we do not ask for student status to provide an education for them. However, we recognize that they are also experiencing a number of barriers, and that because of their status, there are supports that they are not, or their families are not receiving.
All right, Ms. Villasensi, if you can put some, let's go back up and finish up allocating,
That's
aligning,
where I
and
was.
redistributing. So
I
what are
wanted
we
to
using
say
there?
something there.
Mrs. Andrews?
Yeah, and that's where I was going to say, we'll keep the redistributing of, because I think when you say allocating, we're already allocating funds and aligning, but we've got to go back now and do it right. So that might be the better word. We got to go back and redistribute.
What about if we put and fairly distributing resources to provide access and opportunity? Fairly redistribute,
Fairly
take away the
doesn't
re,
mean
just put
anything.
fairly distributing resources.
We say we do that already.
Okay.
Right, Mr. Barbier, okay, so how if, eliminate, and, let me find the words again. You got rid of that already, you're so quick, Kathleen.
Allocating
Okay,
and aligning were the
yeah,
words.
here's what I want to say, eliminating bias and aligning and or redistributing resource allocation.
Aligning and or redistributing
Resource
resources.
allocations.
Everybody okay with that?
If you're aligning resources, what you're doing is you're aligning them to meet need. That would be the context that you would want to come across. Redistribution is acknowledging that it's not equitably distributed now, and that would be an intentional action.
Correct, and so if we say aligning or redistributing resource allocation, then we're not just talking money, we're talking all resources and how we allocate them. But I
Right,
can be done
and
with
you would
that.
want to ensure that you're aligning based on need.
Yeah, well, we say to provide access and whatever we do. I think we're saying why we're doing it.
Great.
Take out the word allocating, Ms. Villasencio. And we want aligning and redistributing, or aligning and / or redistributing?
I'm
And
still
/ or?
sticking with redistributing.
Can we just say distributing instead of redistributing?
Don't ask me what's wrong
Well,
with that
well, you
word.
currently distribute resources.
Yeah.
I mean, that is something that's currently being done. The issue is that they need to be reallocated. A reallocation of how those resources are distributed is taking place because it's not equitable right now.
So then with reallocating, I mean, I think it's the part that's important to me.
Currently on the screen, Ms. Furtakis, we have and realigning or redistributing or reallocating. So obviously we have a little bit too much there.
Okay, so
Redistributing.
Yeah, let's just pick one. They all kind of.
My personal preference is that you take allocating out of the equation because the other two words are really getting more to the point of what it is you're trying to address.
Okay, they have reallocating. I don't know if that makes a difference. Reallocating and redistributing is probably the same.
Adding the prefix re is definitely an action that is saying that the current system would be changing. And so now you're back to which word is it that you all prefer
Yes.
to be communicating what is what you want to convey.
Okay, let's make a decision here. Realigning, redistributing, reallocating. Which words you want to use?
Redistributing.
Redistributing? Everybody okay with redistributing?
Yeah.
Ms. Villasencio, we take out the other words, please.
okay, now I need a new word instead of opportunity. and redistributing resources to provide access and I can't do opportunity. We already have opportunity.
What if we take power out of the first part and stick it down there? So you say hearing and elevating unrepresented voices by recognizing and eliminating bias, redistributing resources to provide access and power to historically marginalized groups.
So I kind of like the intent, but here I think this statement says where we're trying to go, right? And so the only thing that comes in my head at the moment is to provide access and equitable outcomes. And I think if I'm not an English major, I think it's before historically marginalized groups, but I'm not certain about that instead of to. But I'm just saying opportunity is not my word. I'm not sure.
So replace opportunity with equitable outcomes to historically marginalized groups?
Yeah, that's my thought. It's definitely not opportunity.
Everybody okay with that? Take away the word opportunity and put in equitable outcomes?
Are we going to give this to Diana Fetterman at some point? Because she does such a good job with that.
Provide access to what?
What are we giving it to her for?
She's so good at the reading, making it read and be appropriate with all the appropriate words. She's just great at that.
No, we're not giving it to anybody to change our words.
I mean, just so you could do something like the 4 and the 2. Like that's something that she would be good at.
Go ahead,
Do you know what I mean?
Mrs. McQuinn.
Okay, to provide access to what? Or for what? Access
gotcha.
to what? Yeah.
Why don't we just take away and just put provide equitable outcomes to historically marginalized groups? Take away the word access and. Okay? Take away the words access and opportunity and leave in equitable outcomes.
You get ready to testify, Marcia?
Okay, now we're in that third paragraph where we have a non-sentence there at the beginning that.
I do think it's equitable outcomes for historically marginalized groups, though.
Okay.
Yes, it would be 4.
Okay, now the last paragraph starts with a non-sentence, where we have this, where adults take ownership for student learning and outcomes.
We do this by?
So here I go again.
Go ahead, Mrs.
The
McQuinn.
adults, I don't know who they are, but whoever these people, I mean, I know who they are. The adults will take ownership for student, I don't know, learning. I don't know. See, learning and outcomes doesn't, I'm sorry, Dr. Wright, it doesn't really make sense. So for student learning,
There hasn't been an explicit highlighting of social emotional issues here. I'm wondering if the term well-being could be used somewhere. Student well-being.
Yes, please. I think that's a great idea.
I'm going to go back to Austin again, but and do this what you want, but it's students' academic intelligence, emotional intelligence, and socio-emotional needs.
Where do you think that should go, Mrs. McQuinn?
It's at the end, right?
Well, when Mary was pointing out that we hadn't gone back to those emotional, et cetera, so wherever it has to do with outcomes, I just thought that covered them so well.
Can you say that one more time, Ms. McQuinn, so I can write that down?
Sure. Students, that would be S apostrophe, academic intelligence. Sorry, I could have been an English teacher too. Academic intelligence, emotional intelligence, and socio-emotional needs.
Should be S apostrophe instead of apostrophe S, Mrs. McQuinn.
Uh-oh,
That would be S apostrophe, multiple students.
Yes.
uh-oh, okay, so,
Instead of adults will take ownership, shouldn't it say the district shall take on, the district will take ownership for student learning? The district? Talks
That
about
would be
what,
inclusive of, that would be inclusive of everyone, because that would include the school board.
okay, where's the sharing power part?
Up a paragraph,
Got lost.
a little bit higher.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So then, here somehow it's this, okay. Okay, I could live with school district, but I was thinking everyone, the adults in the system, outside the system, and the students would work in partnership, but then, never mind, scratch it. Because some people will interpret that as saying it's their responsibility instead of ours, so never mind. I just talked myself out of that.
I'd like to suggest at this point, if someone would be willing to read through what we have at this juncture, I think that would be helpful. You've got a pretty powerful statement going here.
So can we just decide on staff versus employees?
Sure.
Is that okay?
Staff.
Yeah,
let-
go right ahead.
before we read it, Ms. Furtakis, we need to fix the third paragraph. There's a lot of question marks and other stuff in there. We can get that done first. So it currently says the school district of Palm Beach County will take ownership for student learning and outcomes, supporting, empowering, enabling students, families, staff, employees. So we need to figure out whether we're going to leave empowering, enabling, or supporting in there to start with.
Can I make a suggestion? The school district of Palm Beach County will take ownership for students' academic intelligence, emotional intelligence, and socio-emotional needs
That's great. We can move that right into there.
by, and then choose your word. Wait, where'd it go? Empowering, enabling, whatever, and then the students, families, staff, employees, and communities. Yeah, like, I need an English major because we got to run on sentence. But I'm just saying.
I like empowering. I like the way that that's like a
Empowering?
little bit. Yeah, I do. I don't know. It seems more like you're giving them the power over their own destiny, which I love.
Everybody okay with empowering? We'll take away supporting and enabling. Okay, Ms. Vicencio, we scratch those.
So let me just say, I'll go for that because we already talked about sharing power. Let me tell you what people have said to me when I've used the word empowering in the community is that there's an assumption that it was ours to give, right?
Oh.
But because we have sharing power in there, then I think I'm good. I don't think I get pushback. So.
And then I still think we should get rid of employees. I never wanted to be an employee, but being a part of staff is like being a part of a family.
But Ms. McQuinn doesn't like.
No, I yield to it. I just, when I look it up, I was very conscious of this as a school principal and referring to staff because you got your custodial staff, you have your instructional. I'm fine with staff. It's okay. I really looked it up. They mean the same thing.
Okay.
Okay, can I tweak some more? I need
Go
to
ahead,
mess with
Dr.
some more.
Robbins.
So instead of empowering, now this is, I need a new, okay, so instead of empowering, creating, don't type this because it's not fitting in the sentence right, but it's creating an environment where students, families, staff, and communities can find their power in order to. Okay? So I know. See, I need bullets before
I was going to say, that's going to be,
Yeah.
the sentences are long. The sentence
Yeah,
is long.
the concept,
We need periods.
the concept Dr. Robinson is referring to that I've heard expressed often is people talking about creating the conditions for
There we go.
these things to happen.
Okay,
Could write that.
Fix, see, I can't do this. I need bullets, and then I can turn it into a paragraph. But
Help.
so by creating the conditions where students, families, staff, and communities can find their power, or find their power. Maybe not can. Period. Then we need a period because period. And then it's like, that's, you got another one? I love power. I don't know, but power works for me. I understand power.
Seems trendy.
Yeah, we got it up there. Power is very important. Power is why we have the problems we have.
Board members, what do you want to do with this?
I have a comment.
Ms. Ayala?
I just want to point it out that we have dismantling twice and historically marginalized groups twice, which is fine. I'm just pointing it out. And when it reads, I don't want it to sound redundant and take away from what we're trying to get across. Because it's just heavy right now. We got to trim some of this down.
I personally don't like find their power. I mean, I don't know what that exactly means, and I don't know what people that are going to read it know what we're talking about.
Yeah, I need
empowering
another word.
sounded better when we had it that way before.
I
But
think up there with sharing power is good. Right there, can we find another?
Sharing power is good. So,
Yeah, I don't love find their
and
power.
I actually
either.
don't like find their power either because it's really
Find some
to
another
act
word.
upon.
Barbara, you got the
to use
the-
the
How about the word agency?
There we go.
Because
where,
That's
Ms.
a
Furtakis? Where are you talking
little
agency?
power.
Find their agency?
yeah, it's what when people have agency, that means they do take control over their what's
Sounds
happening
good.
in their life. They have the ability to do that.
Yeah, I don't
And many times students will talk about the fact that they don't have agency, which they often equate to not having voice
Yeah,
in
we
something.
like that.
I don't like it because I don't think people are going to understand it.
Oh, no, but
I think that we've gotten too high on the confusion scale on a lot of these things. We're supposed to be at like a 6th grade reading level, right?
Well, who's the audience for this?
Us, teachers.
I hope they better than 6th grade reading level.
So this is one of the reasons why this is a draft, because you're going to be taking it out to people who will be calling out some of these things. We did that in one of the examples that I provided to you with both a Spanish language version and an English version. we actually centered the Spanish words to get to where we were, because we got hung up on some of these phrases that we use all the time, like in partnership with, and there was no good translation of it. But when we looked at the word together, that worked for everybody. And so it achieved all of those things. So what we're trying to do is get some words in here and sentences that we can take a look at in total. And one of the filters we'd be looking at is how much educationese is in here, how many words need to be explained, and recognizing that, and you can flag those for when they go out to be reviewed to say, is there something that we should consider instead?
In the fourth paragraph that starts with the word "and," why don't we start it with the school district of Palm Beach County will acknowledge and dismantle acknowledges and will dismantle systems, processes, and mindsets that perpetuate race with the rest of that. So the school district of Palm Beach County acknowledges and will dismantle
Now we have three dismantling.
and will dismantle.
Acknowledges what?
Acknowledges systems, processes, and mindsets that perpetuate race. We acknowledge that we have those, and we're going to dismantle them.
So
No?
can I,
Go ahead, Ms.
I'm
Dr.
still
Robbins.
stuck before, so communities develop agency and voice. Because it took me a long time to understand agency, but agency and voice together, I think people get better. Develop agency and voice. Because this is a draft, right? So it's, yeah.
Can I go back to how we have double historically marginalized groups?
Go ahead, Ms.
I was just thinking maybe we could cut off the last one and just make it say resources to provide equitable outcomes, period, since we already said it.
We already said them, yeah.
Yeah, because we said it at the top, and then now we say it
So
at the
take
bottom.
the
Second paragraph,
one at
just a period.
the bottom.
Oh,
Go
I'm
down
sorry.
4 lines from where you are.
Got it. So take this out,
Just put a period after outcomes.
or you could just say for all. I don't know. Up to you. Or just equitable outcomes. Okay.
We have 3 dismantles in here, just saying that.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Microphone, Dr. Robbins. Ms. Vertakis has got to hear what you're saying.
Okay, acknowledges the existence of and will dismantle.
Acknowledges the existence of, yeah, okay. Acknowledges the existence of and will dismantle. Is that better, Mrs. Whitfield?
Yeah.
All right, we ready to read this?
Go for it.
Yes?
Yes, please.
It's cool.
Oop,
Uh-oh.
Maybe not. Just kidding.
Got it. Meeting adjourned. The School District of Palm Beach County is committed to dismantling racism and other systems of oppression and inequity. We will create equitable and inclusive schools that ensure students have what they need to be successful in school and life. Achieving racial equity requires proactive and continuous investment in historically marginalized groups who have endured centuries of systemic oppression. The School District of Palm Beach County is committed to dismantling structures rooted in white advantage, to hearing and elevating underrepresented voices by sharing power, recognizing and eliminating bias, and redistributing resources to provide equitable outcomes. The School District of Palm Beach County will take ownership for students' academic intelligence, emotional intelligence, and socio-emotional needs by creating conditions where students, families, staff, and communities can develop agency and voice. The School District of Palm Beach County acknowledges the existence of and will dismantle systems, processes, and mindsets that perpetuate race ethnicity, poverty, disability, language status, undocumented status, gender identity, and sexual orientation as predictors of achievement. We will embrace, celebrate, and honor the diversity of our students, staff, parents, and community members in helping each student achieve personal and academic success.
I love it.
Do we want to change "we" at the fourth paragraph, or we want to leave "we" or put back in the school district of Palm Beach County again?
Oh, I like that. Third of the school district. Well, okay, I'm sorry.
Go
My
ahead.
turn to say something again.
Go ahead, Ms. Wood.
I'm sorry, I forgot already. Go ahead.
You
Oh,
could
I
say,
remember.
as a district, we will embrace.
Okay. As a district with a capital D. Got it.
Don't hate me, but you can't start with a prepositional phrase.
Of course not.
English teacher.
I thought of
Okay.
it again. I'm ready.
Mrs. Whitfield?
I was just
Depends on
thinking,
which English we use it. Okay, so.
we're talking a lot about students here, and I was just thinking, should we put a mention about, I know we have a lot of issues around positions of power within this district being shifted to people of, black and brown people, to use Dr. Robinson's words. So should that be in here somewhere about the positions of the employees? I don't know. We've talking a lot about students, and so I'm trying to figure out, did we cover it well enough, that part? Do you know what I'm saying?
No, I don't know.
No.
So I'm saying that is there a piece about, because we're talking about students. I think we are also employers. So how do we address the fact that we employ a bunch of people and we make differences in the outcomes of the community based on who we employ? That makes sense? So that we're representing the black and brown people in the community. Like I said, we don't have a lot of people that are Asian in positions of leadership, and someone talked to me about that this week. So are we addressing that piece of our job too? The impact that we have on the community by who we employ and how we spend our money. Like there's a whole piece of hiring outside consultants that are, the minority-owned businesses. So making sure that we include that piece in there.
In thinking about what you're saying, which is a great point, I'm looking at paragraph 2 where you talk about resources and redistributing resources, because resources is much more broad, as we've talked about, than just money or finances. It's your people. Where are your people placed? How are they being effectively positioned to be able to impact students most in need? It's also time. It's also your spaces. How are you using them? And it's power and privilege. So when I'm looking at this, I see multiple places where the impact of what you're wanting to accomplish, because it is dependent on your people and this in the system to be making this happen, I see that it is covered. But if it's something that you want to highlight more, that would be one of the things I'd be including on page 3 with the how that's going to be shared with Insight, because I know that's going to come up in your strategic plan. You cannot embed equity in a strategic plan without having an entire section that's talking about how are we going to be making this happen through our people now, and how we are allocating resources to support them, and whether it's professional development, whether it's placement of teachers, whether it's realigning what the staffing looks like in buildings. It covers all of those things.
Dr. Robinson?
Okay, so on the third paragraph, the only thing that's nudging at me is, so we take ownership for the academic intelligence, emotional intelligence, and socio-emotional needs by, but there's much more to that than just creating the conditions where they have agency and voice, right? And so something keeps saying, I want to add, and this, I think this makes the sentence too complicated, but I want to say, like, in part by creating conditions where students da-da-da-da-da. So somehow, and I don't know if that means we split this into 2 sentences, but just to say that we're going to do that, create these conditions, and that's one of the many things that we need to do to have students take on, everybody take ownership for these outcomes. Does that make sense?
Ms. Furtakis?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. One of the ways to strengthen that is to take the word can out. You're saying basically that's a word that indicates, well, they can do that. They might do that. Whereas if you just say that they develop.
Yeah.
Just develop.
Yeah, that's
develop.
good. I'm glad you said that. So will develop is good, but I'm saying above that in order to for the district to take ownership for the students' academic intelligence, emotional intelligence, and socio-emotional needs, we must do more than just create the conditions where they have voice and agency. We have to do more than that. And so that makes it sound like that's what we need to do, just create the conditions where the students, family, staff, and communities will develop agency and voice, and everything's taken care of. That's
the creating conditions. One of the conditions you're creating is eliminating systems of oppression. You're eliminating racist structures, institutional racism, structural racism, etc. And when you're doing that, you're creating the conditions for success. You're creating conditions where agency and voice will be developed, and when that happens, we know that success follows. So I'm not sure if there's a different way you want to phrase that, but the conditions you are referring to in this statement are eliminating what you say at the top, which is dismantling racism and other systems of oppression and inequity.
Why don't we get rid of the words by creating conditions? So it just says the school district of Palm Beach County will take ownership for students' academic, and then I was thinking we should change that word to success instead of having intelligence twice. Academic success, emotional intelligence, and social emotional needs, where students, families, staff, and communities will develop agency and voice. So forget about by creating conditions, just where this will happen.
And I got something. And the last dismantle, can we use eliminate? So we've got 3 dismantles up there.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Mr. Barbieri?
Yes, who said that?
I did.
Sayal.
Thank you. I thought of break down systems or disassemble somewhere on one of them, possibly. Break down, undo, disassemble, just so it's not so repetitive.
Which one are you looking at? The top one up there?
I'm just throwing out words. I haven't placed where they would go.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's good. Disassembling. That sounds good to me.
Disassembling structures rooted in what advantage that one would make sense there.
Right.
One of the things you could consider in the interest or in the spirit of wanting to use positive and affirming language, instead of dismantle, you could talk about recreate,
Recreating.
reimagine, reinvent.
Oh, yeah.
I thought of that too.
I like that.
Instead of re.
Now, that's kind of crazy, though. We're going to reimagine the structures rooted in white advantage. That's like that's kind of scary. I'm going to go for the disassembling.
So placement matters in the order that you have them. But if you're talking about again, just at some place in here, maybe one of your dismantles, if this isn't the right space, maybe one of the 3 that might be a place to consider a re-word instead.
So could we
Keep
be
the first,
positive?
keep the first dismantle.
Yeah.
Keep that
I was
one
going
up.
to say reimagine racism. That's not a good plan.
No, but wait, if we say transforming, the school is committed to transforming structures rooted in. Can we not be transforming those structures? Then it's positive.
Yeah, but it ain't positive. We need to tear this mess down.
Oh, well, then we have dismantled. That would be the
So
problem.
we got disassembling as an option.
I like transforming. That's really nice. Transforming structure.
Go ahead, Mrs. McQuinn.
I'm doing it too. Break down.
Because I really do, I mean, we've talked about transformation and how we have this opportunity to do this post-pandemic. And let's do it.
So we're transforming it to what, though? Because if we're going to say transforming structures rooted in white advantage, you need to tell me what we're changing them to.
Why can't you just say
White
removing?
advantage to hearing and elevating underrepresented voices, right?
Yeah, that's a tool to get to the equitable outcomes, right?
There is also another way to look at repeating some words. It is a very powerful and appropriate word, and using it more than once emphasizes the point that you're trying to make. And that is a literary tool that has been used for emphasis. And in this case, that would be appropriate for what you're trying to accomplish.
So we stick with dismantling, board members? I can't hear you, Mrs. Andrews.
We got rid of the third one, so I think I could live with 2.
Okay. So we'll go back to committed to dismantling structures rooted in white advantage.
Can I ask a question? Could you not, the school district of Palm Beach County is committed to disassembling or dismantling structures rooted in white advantage, period. And then create a sentence that talks about what you're going to replace it with. Does that make sense? Like transforming to make sure that you are evaluating underrepresented groups by sharing power, like it's, so just make a definitive statement that we will dismantle that structure, and then we're going to transform or reinvent or something that then makes sure that all of these other underrepresented groups, is right. So you just make a definitive statement, and then the next part is the next part.
What about switching it to breakdown? Committed to breaking down structures rooted in white advantage?
No, I don't want this breaking down.
Oh, yeah.
You don't want to replace it with a new form of racism.
I was going to say, I don't want to replace it. I want to.
Transform, if we will achieve this by hearing, like it's advantage period. And then we will transform our system by making sure that underrepresented groups have power sharing, recognizing, it's just, I think you want to make a declarative statement. Just make the statement and then build, then you start building because again, you want to tear it down and rebuild.
So by doing that, what you're also doing is highlighting the foundation of white advantage in all this. So you're saying dismantle, where are we? Dismantle the structures rooted in white advantage, period, boom, and then we will transform our system. I think that's worth playing with. I can't do English well.
Well, so see, I like that and have the 2 because we're acknowledging, and we're all trying to find different words for dismantling. Like, let's just use it again.
Yeah, put it back in there, Ms. Villasensi. Just put dismantling back in there and take all that ors out of there, please.
So I have a suggestion. Okay, once you get that caught up. So for that last sentence, okay. Now I lost what it was. Okay, so instead of we will transform our system by hearing and elevating, just say we will elevate underrepresented voices by sharing, and take out the transforming. So we will elevate underrepresented voices by sharing blah, blah, blah.
I feel pretty strongly about transforming.
Really?
Let's fight it out.
So then we will transform, but transforming and elevating just...
Ms. Villasensi, put it back for a minute, please.
I don't think we should transform underrepresented voices.
We will transform our system by hearing and elevating underrepresented voices.
I like that.
Comma, because by sharing power is a separate thing.
We like transform.
I think we need transform in there somewhere. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, I like it.
Instead of having a new sentence, though, we will transform. Now we're getting back to the we's again. Why did we put a comma after the word advantage?
Oh, that's a long sentence. School district.
It's not a long sentence because the school district of Palm Beach County is committed to dismantling structures rooted in white advantage by transforming our system.
No, and.
And transforming. And transforming.
And after
transforming our
advantage,
system.
put and. transforming our system, or transform.
Transforming.
That's good. Whew, that's a good sentence. It's really nice.
Can we still go back to the academic intelligence, emotional intelligence? I feel like there's too many intelligences.
Yeah, what did you have in there, Miss?
I put success. but
Success,
I mean,
academic
happy to-
success instead of academic intelligence?
Students' academic success. I mean, we can change that. I just thought it was weird to have two intelligences, and then the third one's not an intelligence.
But there are different kinds of intelligences. But again, fight with me about it. But
No, it's just not because it doesn't
play
mean the
nice,
right
no
thing.
fighting.
I'm just thinking it looks weird.
But since intelligence is somewhat subjective, why not just say the school district Palm Beach County will take ownership of students' academic mastery?
Mastery.
Mastery.
Like that? That's nice.
Don't we have elementary schools have mastery report cards? We want people to get skills and master them.
It's a good one, Doc.
All right. He's done. Send him his check.
Why do we have we want to get rid of that question mark at the end of that second line? Yes? You okay with creating conditions? Yes?
No, it was just me. I took it out because I thought it would make sense to get rid of that whole, like, we're only making conditions where they can do it, but we're not actually wanting them to do it, or they have to have their own their own agency to do it on their own. Like, I was just trying to fix that problem.
Can I ask, is the word agency too fancy?
I was going to ask Miss Ayala how you would translate it, because I feel like that would get
I
lost
do want to
so
tell
bad.
you that someone texted me,
Someone.
letting me know that agency used in this manner is an SAT word.
To your point, however, it is a concept that needs some explanation, and that would be something you would want to consider. What you ultimately want is a statement that is going to require very minimal explanation as to what your intent is for people. And you also may have to, in a couple of places, do some more fleshing out or provide a definition for what this means when you're talking about it. And I think some of that will come up as you're, again, taking this. You've got a really solid draft here at this point to be taking it out to stakeholders. So let's make sure that the major concepts that you want captured are in here. You're like 95% there, to then be, reading it again as a whole. And again, this is why we're doing it as a draft, so that you are going to be getting additional input that will help clarify a couple of things.
So are we going to, somebody just tell me no, so I'll let it go, but are we going to create the portrait of a graduate?
Yes.
I like that.
Okay, and so then would this, whatever it gets called, would this not somewhere make reference to it? Because that's what we're trying to do. I'm just asking a question.
I think so. And I'm also I will say yes to that. I would like for the group to consider one word change. It says, the school district Palm Beach County will take ownership of students' academic mastery, emotional intelligence, and social needs by creating environments where students, families, and staff and communities will develop agency and voice. And the reason, conditions is another one of those things, it's hard to, what does that mean? But an environment, the home, the place where people are comfortable, they feel agency, whatever. Because if you think about it, our job is to create environments by which the rest of the organization can thrive.
It's plural, creating environments.
Creating an environment.
An environment.
This is just a suggestion. I'm not saying it has
I
to go
like that. I like
Okay,
that
so
better.
wait, but I want plural, because what you just said, what I'm hoping we're going to do, if we're to really do this, to really try to overcome this generation's the educational debt, then we're going to have to help support to have these kind of environments outside of the school too. Not that we will do it by ourselves, but we're going to need to provide support so that for homes, for community-based agencies, and so forth, if we really are going to do this, right? So I want to create environments. That's me.
That's fine. We can have environments.
Okay, this is, are there any other words, concepts, or phrases that have not been captured? Because we need to pull this together, do a final reading of the draft, and then give you a few minutes to queue up what your next steps are and prepping for your next workshop on April 14th.
I'm still stuck on agency. I wanted to hear if Miss Ayala knows how to translate that. Is it possible?
Yeah, you can. It would be agencia propia, like self-agency. And I do think it could be a little bit high concept to explain to communities at large, but we have to consider that. Do we want to educate folks at that level right off the gate, or do we want to do something that's more already known? Because agency is something you need to learn and understand and capture for yourself. So that's my only thing. There is a way to translate it. It just would take a little explaining, I think, for some.
Thank you.
It's a higher level social emotional learning skill. And that does take some explanation. But again, this is something that you could, at this point, if we're stuck on it, we can underline it as something that we particularly would like input on for a potential different word or concept.
Are we looking at the last one where we put aside the prepositional phrase? Are we doing? Are we doing that part? Because if we are, I have something to substitute for diversity, which, you know, is not one of our colleagues' favorite words, and it also brings in something else. So embrace, celebrate, and honor the diverse cultural histories of our student staff. You're always saying cultural histories. So honor the diverse cultural histories, plural, of our students, staff. Just a thought.
Mark, can you bring that up a little bit on our screen, please?
Thank you. Got it.
So I personally, I'm just dealing with, I'm trying to be a team player, so I'm accepting the diversity word, but
I have a suggestion.
yeah.
What about, as a district, we embrace, celebrate, and honor the unique cultural histories of our students, staff, parents, and community members? Because I think unique speaks to, like, Deborah and I are both of African descent, but we have two different worldviews and two different world experiences. It's unique. And I think that's something that I think would make sense.
Okay, so are we embracing, celebrating, honoring their cultural histories, or them? So, but I don't hear that here. I see the unique cultural histories of them. I want to embrace, celebrate, and honor them, along with the culture that they bring with them. So, I would leave.
How about honor our students in their unique cultural histories? Honor our students, staff, parents, and community members in their unique cultural histories.
It could be and instead of in.
Yeah. So can we lock in that we're keeping agency, or do I need to debate that now? Somebody just needs to tell me.
What was suggested is that for purposes of where we are right now, that perhaps we underline that word, and that would be a word we specifically ask for input from your stakeholders about what we should, or what you should consider for that.
Well, we're going to ask our stakeholders all of this. I think that we need to be clear about where we stand. Because the other thing is, I'm going to just tell you now, here's my fear. When we take this to our stakeholders, which disproportionately represent the haves, right? I mean, it's just the truth, right? this might be very threatening to them. And so I'm hoping we're not going to start reversing course and saying our stakeholders said, right? So I want to be clear with the word agency as well as the rest of the document where we stand really as a collective, but also individually. I mean, at some point when after this is no longer a draft, if we are all sitting well with the document, because we are going to get pushback from voices that we typically respond to quickly, okay? And so, like, I kind of feel like, tell me now, because I don't want to be frustrated. And so, you know, this document, for the most part, is telling us, the school, everybody who for noise signs their check, and folks who connect with us, where our priorities are. I think that all those people will understand agency and voice, right? I don't have any problem with having conversations in the community about what that means, right? I don't have a problem with that. I don't know how many people know what emotional intelligence is. All right, I mean, I'm just saying. So who's the audience? So I just want to know. I want agency in there because I think it says what I want this sentence to say.
And I would agree with that. Mary, is there any documents, well, there's actually no rules preventing us. You know, part of these type of documents that sometimes why they end up on shelves because people can't understand the language. So why don't we tease out these fancy words and define them and make them a part of the whatever overarching document? Like, you know, like if you read a book, you know, like there's, you know, I've read books that are written in sort of a street vernacular. And on the back pages, it tells you what all those street words meant so that you can understand the language. And so instead of eliminating a word like agency, why don't we include it and then, you know, explain it?
And I was actually going to suggest like a little footnote, you know, at the bottom of the statement explaining what it is, because I think you do need to explain it, Dr. Robinson. I think a lot of people won't understand it, but we want them to understand it.
I think so.
So by footnoting it or putting in a comment, you know, towards the bottom of wherever it is, you know, that's also going to help them learn a new concept.
Right. So as we go through it, we can do the asterisks for some other words too, because, you know, for me, this document is for us, right? And so I get, you know, we want to be clear with what we mean. And I actually think that along the road, maybe there's some videos where we talk about why we said these words, right? But I just want to put it out there now to get ready. So whenever, I guess it's the next meeting, when we settle on this, I'm hoping that we settle on something that everybody can carry, because there is going to be pushback. And the pushback is what has typically prevented us from moving forward, right? And that's just the truth. So
let's look at this last paragraph. I have a suggestion how to fix that with Dr. Robinson's comment about making sure we're recognizing and honoring people rather than cultural histories. So let's use my suggestion. As a district, we will honor our students, staff, parents, and community members in their unique cultural histories and ensure each student achieves personal and academic success. So move our students, staff, parents, and community members up after we will embrace, celebrate, and honor our students, staff, parents, and community members in their unique cultural histories and each student achieve personal and academic success, and ensure each student achieves personal and academic success.
So can I get an and instead of an in? So we will honor the students, staff, parents, community members and their unique cultural histories in order to ensure, or something like that. Okay, while ensuring. Okay. Yeah, okay.
That's great.
Okay.
Okay, so I just want to respond to Dr. Fenoy. Yes, I strongly recommend that definitions and defining what you are talking about will be a very good idea, and many documents, including equity policies, there will be a glossary at the end to make it to ensure and help with the educating part, that people know what you were talking about, because there's a whole lot of people that were not a party to this conversation. And so they didn't have the benefit of seeing the thought process that has gone into this, a very thoughtful process and a great conversation. So that is always a really good idea to do. What I'm going to suggest at this point, because of our time, is would someone please read what you have, and then we're going to finish up with the last a piece of this queuing up for April 14th.
I think we need to fix Mrs. McQuinn's problem with the preposition, though, before we change it.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
All right,
every
well-
single one starts with the school district of Palm Beach County, so why don't we just do that at the last one, too?
True, when we do, oh shoot, no, I can't remember, proclamations, they all start with
We always
whereas.
start with whereas.
So we're going to replace as a district with the school district of Palm Beach County will embrace.
Dr. Fenoy's gone on the computer.
Dr. Fenoy's going to read it this time. Mark, can you bring it down a little bit further on the screen?
I was going to say, oh wait, no, the second one doesn't have the school district will. I guess that's okay.
I'm going to suggest that at this point, maybe knowing that nothing will be taken out of our words, because seriously, we're going to have to combine a couple of those last two, because you can't have one sentence paragraphs. So why don't we wait and come
Can't have
back to
one
that?
sentence
Not
paragraphs,
letting
Mrs.
anybody take
McQueen?
our stuff away.
I'm telling you,
Mary?
yes, you need to. I think we do need to run this by a reading expert, such as Diane
Yeah.
Fetterman. Doesn't have to be her, but
We'll get it. We'll get it. All right. The School District of Palm Beach County is committed to dismantling racism and other systems of oppression and inequality. We will create equitable and inclusive schools that ensure students have what they need to be successful in school and life. Achieving racial equality requires proactive and continuous investment in historically marginalized groups who have endured centuries of systematic oppression. The School District of Palm Beach County is committed to dismantling structures rooted in white advantage and transforming our systems by hearing and elevating the underrepresented voices, sharing power, recognizing and eliminating bias, and redistributing resources to provide equitable outcomes. The School District of Palm Beach County will take ownership of students' academic mastery, emotional intelligence, and social and emotional needs by creating environments where students, families, and staff and communities will develop agency and voice. The School District of Palm Beach County acknowledges the existence of acknowledges the existence
There should be a
of
comma
okay.
after
existence of and will eliminate systems, processes, and mindsets that perpetuate race, ethnicity, poverty, disability, language status, undocumented status, gender identity, and sexual orientation as a predictor of achievement. That's a long one. As a district, we will embrace, celebrate, and honor our students, parents, and staff, and community members and their unique cultural histories while ensuring each student achieves personal and academic success. If we do that, yeah.
Can we change as a district in that last paragraph to school district of Palm Beach County, make it consistent?
Okay, so that second to last, not only is it very long, but it's one sentence. So I was suggesting that okay, let's let an English person, without taking any of our words away, make that last two pieces grammatically correct without taking away any of our words, just making, you know how we do strikeouts when we do? Yeah, keep our stuff, but use strikeouts.
that can be done, and it could be as simple as them being bullet points in the third one. So yes, you have some experts on hand who can
Greg Robinson
clean
wants
that
a
up.
bullet point.
Yep.
Okay, Ms. Furtakis.
I'm sorry, I missed that. Okay. So if Ms. Villavicencio is back,
I'm here.
We have. Okay, great. Could you please pull up the PowerPoint for the last two slides? And while she's doing that, I would like to invite all of you to please give her a round of applause for the incredible scribing that she has done for us today to keep this on track. All right. Okay. So your next steps that you have going forward, and the issue has been raised about key stakeholders, and this is an opportunity for you to show that you're doing things differently. And what it usually should be done is that when you're doing going out for something like this, you need to ensure, and this is based again on your data, which is very clear, who are the people and the groups that have been historically marginalized, and you ensure that their voices are heard as a part of this, the feedback, and that you are very much creating a way for them to be centered in providing that type of feedback to you. And there's going to be my understanding is that at your April 7th board meeting, this is going to be an agenda item to be talking about, who's going to be the lead person coordinating this, establishing the timeline and deadline for input for this to be reviewed by the board, but then you'll be scheduling adoption of this as an action item for one of your upcoming board meetings. I just want to confirm that I've got the right date. If either Mr. Tierney or Ms. Villavicencio could confirm that for April 7th.
That is correct, Mary.
Okay, terrific. And then the last part of this on the last slide is that your third workshop in this series is we're going to be doing the revisions to your mission and vision statement. And the pre-work that you already have most of this, and you'll be provided with the notes from today, and you'll have the draft of the equity statement also to take a look at. I will be providing some examples of mission and vision statements from districts that have been centering equity. Actually provided several for you back in December, so we'll resurrect those and add a few more to it. And then our outcome for that meeting is you're going to be doing pretty much what you did today, where you will be reviewing and finalizing what your mission and vision statements are to schedule those for adoption at an upcoming board meeting. And that is what I have. So I'd like to turn it over to Superintendent Fenoy, Mr. Barbieri, or anyone else who has anything they would like to add to this, or any questions that the board has related to next steps.
Well, Mayor, I just want to take a moment on behalf of the school board to thank you for your facilitation today. Thank all of my entire team, and obviously my first team, which is the school board, for our participation today. And I am thankful that we've built a relationship where we can have an honest conversation and agree to disagree and keep it moving forward. And so those are my closing comments. Thank you, everybody.
We have a motion to adjourn. Motion by Mrs. Whitfield, seconded by Ms. Ayala. All in favor?
Oops. I forgot one thing, and
Yes.
I apologize.
We haven't taken a vote yet. Go ahead.
Okay, I was trying to get my mute button off. I wanted to do finish this with the way we had started, which was a check-in, and I'd love to have you poll your colleagues as we go around the room to do a checkout with a word or phrase of how you are leaving today. So we have time to do that.
All right, we're going to skip Mrs. McQuinn since she... Go ahead, Mrs. McQuinn. You can go first.
I came in here in such a down mood. I am so appreciative to my colleagues and to Dr. Fenoy and to Dr. Fenoy's staff for making this so productive. Thank you.
Ms. Ayala.
I feel accomplished and hopeful and appreciative of everyone's comments today to make sure we align on this important work. Thank you as well, Ms. Bertakis, for your assistance. It was invaluable, and we really felt your input.
Ms. Pearl.
Thank you. So I am excited and grateful because we came in here from different places, wanting different things, and I think we really incorporated the diversity of our views, I'm hopefully achieving what Dr. Robinson wanted, achieving the other groups that we also wanted included. I feel very satisfied. I'm excited and just waiting to get the work started.
And I'm pleased that we all work together as a team to get this done today. I think we accomplished a lot, so thank all of you for your cooperation.
I'd just like to say something. I want to encourage you all to stop saying what Dr. Robinson wanted and to say what you want.
Mrs. Whitfield?
I just want to say that was so fun. I enjoyed working with you all. I feel like we never get to do this, where we actually get to have conversations, and so that was great. And I feel, like Alex said, very accomplished. I'm very proud of the outcome, and I can't wait to see what the community has to say.
Mrs. Andrews?
And Mrs. Patakis, thank you so much for all that you're doing. I thank the staff for putting everything together. This was a great day of getting our thoughts together of how we should be as we move forward. I'm looking forward to actually beginning the implementation of showing these words into action. So today was a good day that we did come together and resolve what we truly want to be like in Palm Beach County for our children.
Dr. Robinson?
Thank you. I remain hopeful. I think I'm more encouraged than I was at the start. Thank you for saying that, Dr. Fenoy, because, I'm going to speak my truth, but it is not about what I want. It's what our students need and how we need to lead. So actually we have a better community. But now I'm almost afraid. And I'm almost afraid that that we will respond to criticism by going back to our usual mode of operating. And so I'm going to be prayerful that that doesn't happen. Thanks.
And before we take a vote, let's thank Mr. Murray, the man behind the glass, for he always gets us set up, takes care. Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.